It is spooky season, and there is nothing spookier than trying to get all three of us and a special guest on the podcast at the same time.
Yeah, down to two.
Two of us, and we even got rid of, like, in our Goldilocks phase, we got rid of the table.
Yep, now we're just doing the chairs and
the chairs.
what you hate, but
It's not, no.
face your fears. It's Halloween.
It just reminds me that I just don't pump enough iron because these mics are kind of heavy.
Something to work towards.
Yeah, that's just continue what I'll do. Or like now with footballs on Friday, my right arm's turning into my Popeye arm because I'm holding that camera the whole time.
Yeah, underestimate the power of the camera.
Yeah, I honestly, as somebody who sits at a desk and watches you guys report, when you guys have to hold those cameras, I don't give you enough credit. So this is my formal apology.
I take a lot off of the camera before I go out. Like I'll take off the nap mic, I'll take off the mic pack.
When you shoot football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you taught me that. I do take those things off.
Yeah, takes a few pounds off. So.
Like that little mic pack itself, I feel like that weighs a pound.
Easily, yeah.
So, but yeah, so as you guys can see or hear, Tegan is not here. She's out in Virginia.
Yeah. Heading to JMU.
JMU. Where is JMU? What city?
Not sure. Harrisburg.
Yep, Thank you, producer
Virginia.
Kyle.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful campus. So saw ESPN was there already. Matt Barry, he'll be calling the game. So they did a few segments from the campus on ESPN today. So that'll be kind of cool. A Thursday night kickoff, first one of the season for CCU, coming off a nice win against Old Dominion.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, Old Dominion, their record, obviously only one win on the season, but they've played a lot of really good teams, and Coach Beck brought that up in their presser. He talked about the fact of having that bye week after the loss to Virginia, that they just needed rest, they needed to get healthy, and it looked good. I mean, they put up, 45 points, over 40 points in their win against Old Dominion, so a nice win there. JMU is going to be a tough challenge. You know, they had that miracle season last year, and they're still playing pretty good this year too. So we'll see what they do in Sun Belt Conference play. So these are the wins that matter.
Yeah, and you were saying that like that bye week, it was super important. They had players like Braden Bennett. They had Braden Bennett coming back, and he, I think, was caught for a touchdown and ran for two more in their, I think it was 45-37 win. And so that just kind of goes to show, like, they were suffering without some of those players that were down with injury against Virginia. Not saying necessarily that they could have pulled out the win, but it might have looked a little bit different.
Yeah, like I said, you got 2 4-1 teams. Just looking at what JMU's done this year, I think overall CCU's played maybe a little bit more talent. They had a nice win over North Carolina where James Madison put up 70 points, which is just crazy. They won 70-50. It looks like a basketball score here. They played Matt Bullock's Charlotte 49ers. They played Gardner-Webb earlier this year. They played Ball State, where they won 63-7.
Those are high-scoring games.
Yeah, well, Ball State, not the greatest competition.
Yeah, but 70 points in the other one?
But then they just came off their first loss of the season, losing to UL Monroe, and so they were also another 4-1 team. So we'll see. They're going to be obviously looking to bounce back and get back in the win column after suffering their first loss of the season. Again, Coastal Carolina, they've been solid so far this year. I mean, they've been pretty consistent. 55 points against Jack State, 40 against William and Mary. He had 28-20, their closest win at Temple. Virginia just overmatched them, 43-24. And even just looking at that game, Coach talked about just the penalties, talked about winning in the red zone, winning the turnover battle, and he talks about, it's coach speak, but he's like, at the end of the day, that is what kind of makes those wins and losses the difference. And then, again, 45 points against Old Dominion. So we'll see. I mean, they got a tough schedule ahead. They got Louisiana after James Madison. They're at 4-1. They'll take on Troy. Troy's not having a great season. App State's 2-3.
Do you know who else isn't having a good season? Kent State.
Kent State is not having a good season, but when you got 2 teams that are going to pay you over $1 million to come and play them, and you get shut out, 71-0 against Tennessee and 56-0 to Penn State. But hey, we put up 33 points against Eastern Michigan last week, and now we're going up against Ball State, a team that JMU played.
Maybe you can get some of those points back from JMU.
We'll see. I mean, that's the tough thing when you're one of those smaller schools is obviously you're going to have to play the bigger name schools at the beginning of the season. But collect a paycheck, turf upgrades, field upgrades, athletic upgrades, things like that. But you never know. I mean, you play the games, and we saw that this whole past weekend. Everyone said last week was going to be a boring weekend of college football, only one ranked matchup. And, I mean, left and right, whether it was Alabama, number 1, going down to Vanderbilt, and even the one ranked matchup with Missouri and Texas A&M, every game was entertaining.
Yeah, and there was a lot of first losses for those. All those upsets that we're thinking Vandy, Bama, Washington, Michigan, Texas A&M, Mizzou, Arkansas, Tennessee, Minnesota, USC. Out of those, 3 of those were first-time losses of the season.
Yeah.
And so to take that first loss from a team unranked with the exception of A&M, that's a tough cross to bear. And then even for the second losses, so who was it? Minnesota gave USC their second loss, but they lost their first game to Michigan. So that's not necessarily a bad loss. It's a well-fought game.
Yeah, well, Michigan, they're not the same Michigan that they were last year.
Yeah.
But then again, I think USC, I feel like they're kind of one of those overhyped teams each year. But yeah, I mean, the biggest one that we talked about was the Vanderbilt win over Alabama. Alabama last week plays Georgia, who was number 2, and then they take them down. So it's just kind of one of those, you think that the hardest part is over, and then all of a sudden you're playing Vanderbilt, a team that, is not known as a football school, and then before you know it, they're taking down the goalpost, and they're taking it 3 miles downtown, down Broadway, and I think it ended up in a river. So this is Ashley's listening, and she's gonna hate this. This is my gripe with the idea of destroying your field, because it's your field. Yeah, but you can always get another goalpost. I mean, they were 0-60 against top 5 teams.
Okay, I get the enthusiasm.
I mean, you're talking it's the biggest win in program history. It might be the biggest upset in all of college football ever.
Throw a rager. There are plenty of frats out there. Throw a rager. Throw a combined rager. Don't take property.
I say take the goalpost down.
I say don't take the goalpost. Leave it where it is.
I mean,
can you imagine? Don't take the fine.
Could you imagine a team like Alabama coming to Coastal Carolina and you win? I mean, and you could see that goalpost going down 544 or 501 into downtown Conway and just dump it off in the Waccamaw River.
Oh, sorry. That's terrible. I'll put
That's essentially what they did.
Okay, I'm trying to put it in my UND perspective, because University of North Dakota, or FSC team, or FBS team. What's Bama? FSC?
FCS.
FCS, thank you. FBS team, North Dakota. If Bama ever showed up and they played Bama in Grand Forks, first of all, it would be a heck of a hard time to get that out of the Alaris Center. It's a dome. But throwing that thing in the Red River, no.
Putting it up in a mountain.
Well, North Dakota doesn't have mountains.
How do you not have mountains?
It's North Dakota. Do you need a map?
It's just flat?
Yeah, well, no, eastern North Dakota, flat. As soon as you get to western, because you're getting closer to Montana, it's a little more hilly.
Yeah.
Hills, not mountains.
Never been that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're not missing anything.
Yeah, furthest west I've been is Texas.
But you're from Ohio.
What does that have to do with west?
Well, I mean, that's arguably the Midwest, right?
Yeah, I don't know whoever came up with the term Midwest.
Well, we're the middle, but we're a little to the west.
I think Midwest is Texas up, Oklahoma, all that stuff.
Do you know what's directly above Texas if you keep going? North Dakota.
Oh, is that where that's at?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, okay, so the geographical center of North America is Rugby, North Dakota. So if you split North Dakota in half of it's Midwest.
Good for them.
There you go. Now that we've gotten off on that tangent, I just can't see us thinking, you know what? Let's waste our energy taking down a goalpost when I could just go downtown and drink and party and celebrate.
I think they did enough drinking in the stands, which is why that goalpost came down.
Okay.
I'd like to know how the goalpost made it out of the stadium, because there's only so many ways to.
That's my other thing. And, like, the coordination of that many people.
Yeah, talk about teamwork before and after the game.
Yeah, there you go. You know what? When you put it that way, it was teamwork. We saw a group effort.
Yeah.
It's
The
the
video
only
is pretty
group project
funny.
that got an A that year.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, you just see the police. I don't know if they were trying to stop them or if they were just escorting them, but yeah.
I mean, at that point, like, is there stopping them? You have to escort them at that point.
No. There was no stopping them. So just
You know
like
what?
Vanderbilt, I mean, there's no stopping them that day, and it'll be fun. Now Alabama, I mean, their next opponent is USC. So
You
we'll
mean
see.
Alan Marcus's Gamecocks?
Alan Marcus's Gamecocks, as they're also known.
Only
so-
on this podcast.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
They're coming off a pretty nasty loss against Ole Miss.
Yeah, but Ole Miss also is coming off a loss, so it's like you're just getting these teams that are pissed off that they lost the previous week. So like I said, I mean, I would not be surprised if Bama goes home and puts up 70 points on the Gamecocks just out of complete spite and anger. And we'll see. I mean, the Gamecocks, I thought they looked really good in their first few games. That tough loss against LSU. But, I mean, they beat Akron, which was what they were supposed to do. I mean, Sellers looked like he was trying during the Ole Miss game. But, I mean, they were just coming at him. The defense was swarming Sellers left and right, and the wide receivers were doing him no help whatsoever. And you can only do so much in football. I mean, it's a true team sport. You can't just have that one person take over like in a basketball game where you just find the hot hand.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair. And then with Clemson beating FSU, it's a chance for us to say DJ Uyunglele.
he didn't even have the cojones to suit up and play against his old team.
Which, I don't know if it's recent news, but they announced that he went for surgery for his throwing hand.
I'm sure.
And conspiracy. And that could be the end of seeing DJ in college football.
I think it's the end. I mean, at this point, what NFL team's going to take him? You literally had everything handed to you. You went to Clemson basically to take over after Trevor Lawrence. You did nothing there. Then you went to Oregon State.
Sorry, yeah.
Didn't even play anyone major and completely did nothing there. I mean, almost no one even remembers. Then you are given the opportunity to take over for Jaden Daniels not Jaden Daniels, but take over the kingdom for FSU, who, they just had their undefeated season. And you're like...
And then they had a terrible end to their undefeated season.
They have, one win on the season thus far, so, yeah.
But that's tough. I mean, I think there was a lot of talk about the game, right? Like, because he was returning to Clemson, what it was going to be. And you know what? Maybe an NFL team doesn't take him, but the CFL might. They might look at him.
XFL. Or, yeah, whatever.
I think
there's
it's like
opportunity out there.
It's like when hockey. I always compare things to hockey. It's like when hockey guys leave high school and play in the juniors or play college before going to the NHL.
That's the one thing you look at with football. There really is no development league.
There
But
isn't.
there's been, the CFL, and now you have the, USFL and the XFL joining forces to create kind of a development league, and they're working with the NFL in ways to make things safer, stuff like that.
I actually like the idea of going the CFL route, and let me tell you why. I grew up, born and raised Canada, love the CFL, love my Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but it was really hard to find an NFL team to like.
Yeah.
Because there's no connection, really. Like, I could do geographically, which I believe puts me in Minnesota Viking territory.
That's what I feel like most Canadian
They do. They
teams
just kind of go south, and whatever they hit first is their team. But, of course, I had two uncles. One was a Raiders fan, obviously, when they were in Oakland, and one of them was a 49ers fan, and that's how I ended up a 49ers fan. It shows my favorite uncle. Just kidding. But I think that with more players going to the CFL before trying to break out in the NFL is great for Canadian fans because it lets them get used to these players, like these players, and then see them move on and they move on to a team, they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to watch it because I watched this player.
Yeah.
And that's great because it's bringing in the Canadian fans in some way.
Yeah. I mean, NFL, they're always looking to try to reach new fan bases. You're seeing a lot of games played in London.
Europe.
You got the game in Germany.
Isn't there one in Brazil?
I know they did one in Mexico City
Oh, maybe.
a few years ago. So I think they just did one in Brazil.
I thought I was making that up, but maybe they did.
Yeah, I think they did one. I think it was the
Was it
Eagles
the Jet?
game.
Oh, Eagles. I knew
So-
it was green.
So we'll see. I don't know.
Although,
if
I would
they
like-
ever really do one in Canada. I don't know if that's really like going international if you're the NFL. but-
True. I mean, it is international, obviously. But, like, at the same time, they have their own football league.
Yeah.
In all the other places, when they talk about football, it's soccer.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if going to Brazil was the best option with, like, how dangerous it is down there.
Yeah,
Like,
they'll be fine.
but,
Big old football players. If you're going to
Yeah.
mess with anyone.
excuse me, Ricky Pearsall got shot in San Francisco.
Well, that's California.
This is America.
No one's going to California. I just had a conversation with some of our reporters today. I'm like, California, good Lord, what a state. So,
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, these players, DJ, we'll see where he ends up. It'll actually be, that's something that I'll follow because I am really interested to see what happens. Something like that and Grayson McCall, right? People who...
well, he got injured really bad last week.
Oh, did he? I wasn't even paying attention to
Yeah, he
NC
got
State.
knocked out and stretchered out, and yeah.
I feel so bad that I
I
wasn't
felt
paying
like
attention
there
to
was an
Grayson McCall.
update on him. I think he's out of the hospital. He's doing fine, but yeah, he was.
But he's a guy
Hit
who's
out pretty
also
bad.
been riddled with injury every season.
Yeah.
So it's another one of those situations where you see, like, I mean, whether you believe DJ had hand surgery or not, it's one of those situations where you see where
Surgery ain't gonna fix that hand. I'll tell you that.
it's actually a bionic hand now. That's why he had surgery. But no, it's one of those things where you see these players and you hear about them at the beginning of their careers,
Yeah.
for the college careers, having so much promise, and then as they get to the end, it's almost like they're wasting the good years on college.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason. I mean, only a certain amount of people make it to the NFL. It's not a guarantee. So, and I mean, even the top players. I mean, you look at someone like Trevor Lawrence, who was supposed to be the generational talent. I mean, to me, I feel like he's been pretty subpar.
I
in the
forget he
NFL.
exists sometimes until
Yeah.
I see his
Well, he's in
lovely flow.
Jacksonville, so
Yeah,
it's
Jacksonville. I
very
also forget
easy
that exists.
to forget just because it's not that hot market team. I mean, if he was in like a New York, you know, which I think he almost became a New York Jet had they not won one of their final games of the season. So everyone thought he was going to go to New York, which had that happen, I mean, good Lord, the amount of scrutiny that they would have got that year and what they're facing. But, I mean, like I said, NFL, it's not easy to make it to, and, you know, you just got to make the most of what you got. But just looking at the schedule for Clemson, they've got Wake Forest this week on the road.
And they're an unranked team. It doesn't seem like a huge...
Wake's not a big football school. They're mostly basketball, but we'll see what they do there. Then a big game, Virginia. They'll be coming into Clemson. Again, Virginia only has one loss on the year. We'll see what happens there. Louisville, they lost to SMU, so they became unranked. So it kind of stinks if you're a Clemson fan because any chance you had at playing a ranked opponent has kind of gone out the window. Right now, you're kind of holding hope that Pitt will stay undefeated. And, again, they'll have to go to Pitt later in the season, November 16th, and then they'll be playing Citadel and South Carolina, as they always do, to end the season. This year it'll be at Clemson, so we'll see there. You know, rivalry week, you never know what's going to happen. So teams in South Carolina looks good this year. You know, I know they got 2 losses on the year.
But they weren't, like, surprising losses in a way.
I think the first big loss to me was like, oof, that sucked, was this recent one against Ole Miss.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would have said LSU was like a...
I felt like the LSU game was robbed. I feel like, you know, I'm not one to really go after the officials all that much, you know, play the game. But, I mean, you can talk to any person. I'm not a big Gamecock fan. I'm pretty unbiased when it comes to South Carolina sports. And that game was definitely manipulated.
Was that College Game Day?
They were there that day. Yeah, that was definitely a manipulated game. From my standpoint,
College football scripted.
obviously Sellers getting knocked out of that second half. So
Yeah, that was tough.
really the only loss that they've had so far that was like, oof, yeah, that's this past one against Ole Miss. So we'll see how the Gamecocks do. Again, they got a tough schedule coming up. Complete opposite of Clemson. They'll be heading to Alabama, who's now ranked number 7. Then they got to go to Oklahoma, who's currently ranked 18th. Then 15th ranked Texas A&M comes to Williams-Brice. So you have 3 top 25 teams in a row. Then you get Vanderbilt, who knows how they're going to finish the season out.
Vandy's a football school.
Then they play Missouri, who's also ranked right now
Mizzou,
in
like
the
that's
top
one of the
25.
teams that just lost their first game this week.
Then you got Wofford, and then you got Clemson. So out of their final, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games left, 5 are against top 25 ranked opponents.
Well, we're sending you our prayers there, Gamecocks fans.
And they played Ole Miss, and they played LSU, who was also ranked.
They're not. It's not an easy schedule to say the least, but that's
if they come out 500, it's an amazing season. And that's not like a knock on them.
No,
like,
it's not. But
if you can finish above 500, make it to a bowl game, easily one of the toughest schedules on the year right now.
It almost holds a little more weight than some other teams' seasons.
Yes, absolutely. So.
But I mean that'll be an interesting to see. Obviously, if they do finish 500, or if they have any. If you consider any of those opponents, what would you consider an upset for, like, if the Gamecocks beat them?
Any of them. Like I said, if they were able to beat Alabama.
Okay, sorry. I forgot Alabama was still on that roster. Alabama would be a wild one.
If they're able to beat Alabama, if they're able to beat Texas A&M, if they're able to beat Clemson, like I said, all of them, I think obviously would be a huge upset for them. And then hopefully if you win against top 25 teams, you end up in the top 25.
And then you're the people that they want to upset.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's fair.
See. It's been a while since South Carolina was ranked in the top 25. So we'll see what they can do. So like I said, you got to be patient. I think they got the right coach. I think Beamer's the right guy. I think you got the right quarterback. Now you got to get some good wide receivers. It's times like this where you're like, Xavier Legette. Too bad he went to the NFL. That would be an amazing opportunity to have those two paired
up.
up.
The Panthers.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
But he's wishing he didn't do that.
I mean, hey, they got that win with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, but now do you think it's a Bryce Young issue, or do you think it was just luck? Because, like, as soon as they won, they're like, oh, my God. Because I think it was in our fantasy football conversation, like, is Bryce Young the issue? But I think it could just be luck.
No, I definitely think Bryce Young is dealing with his own issues. I mean, like, someone even asked him, like, does this motivate you, the fact that you're sitting on the bench? And he's like, I'm not really motivated by this kind of stuff. I'm like, wrong answer.
Yeah, something should motivate you.
Yeah, something should motivate you, the fact that you're sitting on the bench. But, I mean, some of these people, at the end of the day, win or lose, the paycheck's coming.
Yeah.
Which I think is the mindset of Deshaun Watson right now for the damn Cleveland Browns, because he is.
Is that your team?
Yes. Yeah.
I always forget. I always think it's Cincinnati.
Yeah, he is killing us.
Well, you know what? Maybe you'll get a good draft pick.
Probably not, because we probably traded them all away. Like I said, we've got too much money tied up in good old Deshaun Watson, but that just comes back to management. So, oh well.
That is, and
we're done for the next 3 seasons. It's okay. We sold our soul to the devil, and
his name is Watson.
Yep, his name's Deshaun Watson. So,
I was actually thinking about that. We were talking about fantasy, and we'll get to fantasy later on. But it's a struggle. I actually forgot that the Browns existed. Sorry. I feel so like I'm just tiptoeing around insulting your team because I already insulted Kent State.
That's okay.
But staying on football, I feel like that's usually what our podcasts are about, is football, because it's just king down here.
It's football season.
True. Although
not many other sports to talk about.
Wait. It's also hockey season. Hockey is back.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited. The Jets, obviously, at the time of this recording is Wednesday, and the Jets are playing, I think, Calgary, the Flames or something like that.
Okay, you just say, oh, my gosh, it's hockey season. Then you can't even name who your team's playing.
Well, I think it's either so they play twice this week. It's Edmonton and Calgary. So they're playing it's either Edmonton or it's Calgary or vice versa.
There was a question that was put on the Dan Patrick show this week, and they asked, when does hockey season begin?
October.
Now or when the playoffs start?
Oh, no. October. As soon as there is even the littlest hint of pumpkin spice in the air, October. It's hockey season.
I love hockey playoffs. I love it. Like when Stanley Cup finals and the playoffs are all around, I can't get into regular season hockey.
But that could be said about almost any sport.
Yeah. But I think anyone will watch the NFL. You know, I think there's people out there that...
Well, because there's fewer games, of course.
Yeah. I just feel like it takes a while to get into it. And, there's some people that absolutely love it. And I'm all for it. You know, I think I'm going to jump on the Utah Hockey Club bandwagon. So
okay.
I think that's the team that I'm jumping on.
The only reason that I accept this as your answer is because if we do a little family tree or lineage of where the Utah Hockey Club came from, they were once the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh, yeah?
So, yes, because they were in Phoenix or Arizona, whichever team you followed at the time.
Yeah.
And before they were Phoenix, Arizona, they were the Winnipeg Jets.
No kidding.
We were really sad about that back in 1994, the 90s. Yeah. I was one. I wasn't that mad about it at that time.
You got your team back. So that's all that matters.
And we took them from Atlanta. Sorry, guys. But no, hockey season, it is in full force. We will talk more about it as the podcast goes on, even though we don't have a hockey team here. And when Tegan gets back, her and I...
the Carolina Hurricanes.
True. And, they actually do really well, which is surprising.
They're in Raleigh. So, again, we don't have one in South Carolina, which, again, I don't understand why South Carolina doesn't want to invest in professional sports.
It's weird, right? I mean, they do have an ECHL team down in Charleston, but I'm pretty sure it's in North Charleston. I want to say, don't correct me if I'm wrong.
Is that like the minor leagues of hockey?
Yeah, so it's like a farm team. So you have ECHL teams, you have AHL teams, then you have NHL teams.
Yeah, we got plenty of farm system teams, especially when it comes to baseball.
Oh,
we got
of course.
The Pelicans and all that stuff here. But, I don't get why we don't invest in an actual professional team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're...
At least one.
I feel like the last 2 years that I've worked here, we've always been at risk of losing the Pelicans because of negotiations with the county, the city, and the MLB wanting these upgrades.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think the Pelicans... They belong in Myrtle Beach. They've got a good relationship with the city and everyone. I think they'll be back.
And that's what those surveys are saying. That's what people are, residents and tourists, they're all saying. And, I mean, we know now that they did renew for an extra year. So at least we'll see them next season. Yeah. But, yeah, those farm teams. And, I mean, those farm teams are still important, especially they have to be put somewhere. Myrtle Beach is a great place to put it. But with Myrtle Beach being a tourist destination like it is, you think you would see more, more professional teams. And I say this also with concerts. I feel like we don't get enough good concerts down here because we don't have
we don't really have that venue.
A venue for it.
Yeah.
Build the venue and they will come.
If you could add any of the sports, I know you're a hockey nut, but let's just take hockey out of it.
Okay, my runner-up.
If you could have an MLB team, NBA, we'll say NFL team. I guess, I'll throw, we'll put an MLS team, and I'll even throw a hockey team in there for you.
Okay.
I mean, but you have to also think as an owner, say you're the owner, and you're wanting to bring a team to Myrtle Beach, and you're thinking what would be the most,
lucrative?
Yeah. Well, which sport would you pick?
Okay, so obviously I have to put my love of hockey aside, and I can't say hockey, just because realistically, like you said, we don't even have a hockey rink here for CCU's club hockey team to play out of.
Yeah.
So to bring one, I think it honestly would be kind of a culture shock to the people who live here year round. So then we go back to how close the other major leagues are, right? You have
baseball, you got to go to Atlanta.
Baseball, Atlanta. You have football in North Carolina.
To go.
And
football and basketball, you have to go to Charlotte.
Yeah, and soccer.
Yep. So
pretty much in that little area, I would probably say baseball, because we know that it performs well with the Pelicans, and then you kind of have that base. I'm sure they would love that spot that they could renovate it into an MLB level field.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to pick a different location.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a perfect location.
Nah, it would have to be, I think, a much...
Where would you put it? Like downtown Myrtle is the ideal location, right?
I don't know, because you have to deal with parking and all that stuff. There used to be the Palace Theater, which kind of sits across from the old Myrtle Beach Pelicans Stadium right now. So if you could probably put a pretty nice ballpark right there. But anything off of 17 and 501, I'd probably want something out. I don't know, off of 31 or 22. Oh. You kind of want to. I think you'd want to make it out centralized or something in Horry County.
Well, have you seen the map? It goes around every year of like how local, or it does like a map of how local the major league field or stadium or whatever is to the downtown city, like downtown.
Yeah.
And usually, I think like Dallas is one of those that's like it's all the way out there in the boonies.
Yeah, I think if you look at it, I mean, I think the reason baseball would do the best is just because.
Is that your choice too, then?
I mean, I think it would work out probably the best just because the season lines up with the tourism season. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of people on vacation. They're like, oh, it's baseball. Let's go see, let's go watch the team and let's go.
Valid. Actually, that's a good point.
Watch some fireworks. NBA, I don't know if the Charlotte,
Hornets
team would do well if they moved to Myrtle Beach. I think there's the people of Myrtle Beach would be out there to support them. Mm-hmm. Again, I think a football team would do well in Myrtle Beach as well. But, I don't know. I mean, even if to get some more minor league teams down here would be cool,
Or, and I just thought about this, what if you brought like a WMBA team or like a PWHL? Like those are like leagues that are looking to expand.
Yeah.
Expand them where you could generally say you could build maybe a smaller arena just for capacity purposes, because obviously if we're talking like NHL or NBA, you probably look into the future of building larger arenas.
Yeah, I mean, I think the WNBA would thrive in this area, especially with how much South Carolina has, supported the Gamecocks. Just because you have a good women's team, you got to have people that support them, and they pack out the house. Almost all season, so I think that would do well.
My only argument for an NHL team or a PWHL team is with the way that tourist season works for Canadians coming down here as snowbirds.
You get a lot of snowbirds.
It's a great time, and like that's actually why. And this is my personal opinion. I actually have no data to back this up. That's actually why I believe Arizona did so well for so long. Because of snowbirds, and those snowbirds, they weren't buying tickets to watch the Coyotes. They were buying tickets to watch the Oilers, the Flames, the Jets.
There are other teams that were coming through.
They were there for the visitors. And I mean, maybe they didn't have a team. Maybe you're from Saskatchewan and you're down in Phoenix and you don't have a team. But you're there just because it's hockey and it's high level hockey. And so to bring, because we're talking about when it is and they have like Canada, not actual Canada Day for anyone listening, but they have Canada Day here, and it's usually in like March. They celebrate the Canadian tourists here.
I guess the Chamber does something.
The Chamber, yeah.
I thought you were talking like an actual official holiday.
No. That is July 1st for any Americans listening. If you want to celebrate me, it's July 1st. But yeah, and so like it does line up with when the Canadian tourists are here. Yeah. So I see it being slightly beneficial to consider having an NHL or a PWHL team. Because the PWHL is in its going into its second year, and they're just looking to expand.
Yeah.
Bring it down here. And then dual purpose. Mm-hmm. Now you have a slightly smaller arena that you can take CCU's hockey club that they don't have to go down to Charleston. They don't go to Wilmington anymore. They go straight down to Charleston.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, it would be, the biggest thing, it's the facilities that end up, costing the most, because you have these billionaire owners that want the taxpayers to pay for a majority of it, which I think is stupid.
Are you talking about Tepper in your head?
I just think all owners, I think it's always stupid that these billionaire owners, you want us to keep the team here in, whatever city. Yeah. Well, build me a new stadium. So I just always find that kind of dumb. And whether it's upgrades, whether it's whatever, keeping up to code, these facilities, it's not an easy investment. So,
Well, I mean,
and it
look
does-
at what the Pelicans are dealing with right now.
Yeah. And again, I don't think it even has to be Myrtle Beach, but it would be cool to see, Columbia get some type of professional team or.
Florence has potential.
Yeah. I mean, they have the Florence Center. They've had the opportunity to have kind of like minor league arena indoor football in the past.
They do Disney
So
on Ice over there, so I know that they can make ice.
They do Disney on Ice quite a lot. I think that's their.
I haven't seen Disney on Ice since I was a kid, but I would for sure go.
Yeah, I feel like every time I look at what events are coming to the Florence Center, it's always Disney on Ice. So
They might have residency at the Florence Center at this point.
at this point, yeah. So
That's funny. But yeah, I genuinely think that would be my choice. I mean, MLB feels like the obvious answer to that.
yeah,
And then
Pelicans
NHL
have had success. Yeah,
with my heart. And Tegan, she's not here, but I'm sure she would say NHL. Maybe.
maybe.
I'm just saying that because I know she wants ice, and if NHL means bringing ice, then she's on board.
All right.
I'm putting that here now. Next week when we talk to her, I'll try to remember if that was her answer. But speaking of Tegan, going back to football,
Yeah.
we were talking about some of these upstate teams, and now we're looking at a season extension for high school football.
Yeah, just with the whole hurricane coming through with Helene, there was a lot of teams I think that either had to miss this past week or they're still trying to recover. So this just gives them an opportunity, and it's not unusual. We've seen this before. A lot of the time, if it's the entire state, sometimes they'll just cancel.
The season?
Not the season, but the game or the week. I think when we had Hurricane Florence come through, there was like a few weeks where football was postponed. So nothing completely out of the ordinary. Again, they'll make the shifts. I think one of the weeks that the beach was going to play, they'll put in kind of a bye week.
Yeah.
Allow the upstate, especially now that we're in region play, that they'll give them the opportunity to do what they need to do, and we'll figure it out. So
Yeah.
another
And
extra week of football. So
exactly. I'm
You're
not
welcome.
complaining. Anyone listening too so the beach region will now have a bye week during week 8, which would be the Friday the 18th. So not this weekend, but next weekend. And then that week will be played November 8th, which I'm very thankful because I was supposed to be gone the 18th. Now I get to be here for November 8th football.
Nice.
So thank you. And we got that from your pal Joe Wedra.
Yeah,
over at Maori News.
Yeah, Joe's been a fun person to talk with, and been enjoying doing that with him on our little digital set. So the Extra Point preview or tailgate that we've been doing. So
if anyone is looking for more sports content from us, because you just can't get enough, you can catch. When do you guys usually go on Fridays? It's on Fridays.
Yeah, we go on, Joe Wedra and I over at Maori News, and then we just sit there and we talk around 3:30 and about a half hour. But fills a lot of time. I mean, Joe's super knowledgeable. Remember week 1, he talked about how he felt that Loris was going to be a really good team. And here they are coming off our game of the week, presented by the McGuire Law Firm, and beat Dillon for the first time
in
since the
what is it?
60s.
60. Oh, yeah. I was like, I knew there was a 6
like
in there.
67, 68, 69, somewhere in there.
Very long time.
So, which is just wild because both me and him were trying to go back on like Max Preps, and CMX Preps only goes back to like 2004, 2002. And so he said one of the equipment guys that he was talking to who's been there for 45 years, so they never did it in his time. I think Tegan talked to the coach and said it was like in the 60s. So,
and that's how we pick game of the week, people.
Yeah, been picking some pretty good ones here lately. So we'll see. We got Conway and Myrtle Beach this week. I had a chance to talk to Mickey Wilson over at Myrtle Beach today, so they're focused on this game. They know that it's a rivalry, and anything can happen. Conway not having the greatest season.
No, they are 1-5 now.
But Myrtle Beach they're getting their stuff together. Beat St. James last week, coming off another. So that's 2 wins in a row for them. So they're kind of getting into the form that you want, which it's weird. There's no real preseason in high school, but there is. Those first few weeks, it's non-region. So, I mean, that you look at like North Myrtle Beach. They haven't won any games. then they go and they just beat Conway this
Yep.
past week. So now they're 1-0
In region play.
In region. So you go and you look at the standings. Even though they're 1-5 overall, they're now
Up
third
there, yep.
in the region. So that just shows you how important that can be and how quickly things can turn.
I know. I was at that game, that Conway North Myrtle Beach game last week, and I mean, again, I don't think this play would have been the game changer for them, but I was in the end zone during what most fans were yelling was a very questionable call.
I don't even think it was questionable. I mean, he was literally down at the 1 yard line. I don't know what the heck that ref was seeing.
We will post. Okay, I'm going to make sure that we have the replay here as we're talking about this so you guys can see and make your own educated guess. It looked tough because
it wasn't tough.
To explain, they're at the 1 yard line. They're at inches. They're just going to try to shove themselves in at this point. Do you like my descriptions of football? And it looked like the defense stonewalled him before the end zone.
Yeah.
And then that's where the ball went dead. The refs seemed confused, like they weren't all on the same page, but it was called a touchdown.
Yeah.
And there were furious parents behind me. And they were yelling. They were just like, "That, like, how is that? Like, he's not even in. He's not even in." And at one point, a parent goes, "She has it on camera." And I was like, "No, I don't, because I don't know."
I've had a few of those times where like, "Oh, they got it on camera." Well, unfortunately, there's no review in high school. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point where there's review in high school. But looking at that play, I thought it was pretty clear that he was down at the 1.
Oh, so you're agreeing with me? It's not a touchdown.
Oh, no, not at all.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it was a touchdown. I was like, oh my gosh, how are we done? We disagree.
No.
I agree
it was
with
very
you.
clear. I mean,
yes.
I don't know if the ref was just having a rough day.
Maybe he sneezed.
I know we have like a ref shortage in South Carolina, and these guys are putting in extra work, and we appreciate all the work that they do.
We do.
And a lot of them are just, either volunteering their time or doing this for, a few
glory.
extra dollars. But, yeah, I think it was pretty obvious that it was at the 1 yard line.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, it wasn't the defining moment of the game. So, thankfully, because there are those opportunities, there's unfortunate situations where that does happen. But anyway, North Myrtle Beach gets that first win. So, keep on.
And they needed that for morale, I believe, because if you start I mean, now they look at Conway, right? You're exactly where Conway is, except Conway doesn't have that region win.
Yeah, region play is definitely the most important, especially when it comes to the playoff seeding and stuff like that. And I think North Myrtle Beach has probably been the biggest surprise in terms of just underperforming from where we were at the beginning of the season. We were even just talking the past week with Joe about Carolina Forest. I was asking him, like, are they the best one-win team in the state right now? And, I mean, they played a grueling non-region play. I think almost every single one of their opponents was ranked in the top 25 in the state of, North or South Carolina to start the season. But, I mean, that's good. You want to challenge yourself. And, they had that weird tie against Hartsville, which Hartsville kind of has done the complete opposite. They ended up just going on a tear. So they got a nice win against Dillon. So now you got a team like Dillon who looked really good. Now they have back-to-back losses, which I can't remember the last time Dillon had back-to-back losses in the last, several years here. So, I mean, South Florence started off a little slow, but they're now doing what South Florence does.
Some underperformers that are doing well now this season, Mullins.
Yeah, Mullins. Yeah, they
just took their first loss, though.
They got the loss. Yeah, they just had their first loss of the season after starting 6-0. But yeah, I mean, that's one of those other weird things where it's like, okay, you can go 6-0, or 5-0 in non-region play, then you go 0-5 in region play. Now you're a 5-5 team. Yeah. And so
I think that's my favorite team this year. I'm not out here to pick my favorites, but like that, and honestly, the last 2 years, I don't think I heard very much about Marlboro County, and now they're doing great.
Marlboro County's been a powerhouse for quite a few years, but they're just so far out there in Bennettsville that
it's hard to get coverage.
It's almost a solid 2-hour drive to get out there, but they're playing those teams that we're used to covering. So I think this week they're playing Aner.
Oh, that'd be nice because Aner's not super far.
Well, they'll be.
Oh, and
Aner's
Marlboro
going to go to Marlboro County, and I think they're
Oops.
both. I don't know if they're on both. I know Aner has one loss on the season, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these teams fare. But yeah, I mean, I think if you look across the board, Marlboro County, I think, has a chance to contend for a state title. Aner looks pretty good. They had that crazy win against Conway earlier this year as well. Myrtle Beach.
They're 3-3 right now.
Mickey has this strange way of just always getting his team rolling at the right time. Loris, I think Loris looks legit. That would be awesome to see them contend for a state title. And Mullins, so we'll see how they do. And there's also, just kind of keeping an eye on everyone else. Lakeview's been doing pretty solid as well.
I was there when they played Johnsonville. They were doing pretty good.
So yeah, I mean, that's the one nice thing of our area. We have a lot of good teams that we've been able to follow. So, and we got the extra point just rolling along.
Yeah, and you can catch those highlights on Fridays at 11:15 p.m. With Tegan Brown. Now we get to talk about the thing that the elephant in the room of every episode. It's fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen.
Fantasy football season. We're in the midst of it.
We are, and I would like to point out that I am on a 2-win streak, which will most likely end this week. But I'll take those 2 wins nonetheless because I beat the commissioner.
Nice.
And I beat Brian?
No, Brian's undefeated.
No, that I didn't beat Brian. Who did I play this week? Oh, Weather Bob. Robert Whitehurst.
Robert, yeah, the number 1 overall pick.
Yes. I mean,
Christian
the
McCaffrey.
number 1 overall pick is doing nothing right now.
There's a lot of top first or second round picks that aren't doing anything for a lot of people right now. Devontae Adams is just kind of sitting there.
My entire bench.
Doing nothing. Yeah, I looked at your bench because I started out fairly well. I started out 2-0. I felt good. Then week 3, I put up 155 points, which was the most in our league.
I put up the most points last week.
And I was playing Emily. My teams were all playing. She had 2 things going on that Monday night game, and somehow she came back and beat me by 1 point.
Only if your kicker had just tried harder.
No, I blame that one on the Jags because she had the Bills defense, and Trevor Lawrence literally just was throwing the ball to every Bills defender, and then Mac Jones came in the game. He fumbled the ball, so her Bills defense was just gobbling it up, and then she had some wide receiver for the Bengals, and Dallas Goedert had a hell of a game. I mean, she was projected to have 107 points, and she put up 156. So those projections
They mean nothing.
They
mean nothing
crap.
because I was projected to have 98 points this last week. I put up 157.
Well, you had some crazy.
Joe Burrow,
You had
baby.
Joe Burrow, which, my God, who the heck puts up 5 touchdowns and your team still freaking loses?
Yeah, well,
God help
talk
him.
about that. I don't care. I won.
Bengals defense is trash. But yeah, fantasy's interesting. Friend Zach Wilcox, he's a big baseball fantasy guy.
We're not talking about baseball fantasy. Flying sucks.
Yeah. Well, baseball, you can actually pay attention to statistics and, how these players are doing. Anyone who says they're a master of fantasy football, they're lying to you. It's roulette.
Oh, 100%.
It's literally roulette. You don't know what the heck's going to happen. You could be the hottest team, and then all of a sudden, boom, your team comes crashing down. Because that's where I'm at right now. It's like, especially the bye weeks. The bye weeks get you,
good Lord.
So thankfully my bye weeks were kind of early. But this week, I got
Who are we playing this week? Or this past week, I guess.
I'm playing Kyle this week.
Oh.
So,
Kyle, do you think you're going to beat him?
He's up 10 points on the projection right now.
Oh, but projections mean nothing.
So, I mean, we'll see.
I pulled up this picture to show you about bye weeks, and I have a friend. Again, I'm from the Midwest area, and I have a friend who is a die-hard Vikings fan.
Yeah.
This is his bench this week. If anyone's listening,
So,
the Vikings are on a bye.
Yeah, so I have Aaron Jones, and he's on a bye. So
Yep.
I just had Saquon Barkley, who was for the Eagles. He was just on a bye. So, yeah, this gets tough. So I'm down one of my top running backs, which puts me in a bad situation. I have the Vikings defense, which is best in the league.
Yeah, they are.
So I'm down 2 pretty good points, and then on my kicker.
Your kicker. My kicker's out right now.
I think I have the same. Does he have Harrison Butker?
No, he has McPherson.
Oh, McPherson.
But for anyone who's listening and can't see this, it is a screenshot that I took from one of my friends from Minnesota, and his entire bench, I will read them off. Addison, Darnold, Hawkinson, Jefferson, Jones, all with Minnesota, all on a bye week. And then he also had, and their defense also on a bye week. And then he's got Pacheco on the injury reserve list.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's the injuries that really get you, because you can be on the highest of highs and then the lowest of lows. And, I mean,
it's tough.
Thankfully, in our league, as long as you're not in the bottom 4, you make the playoffs.
I might be in the bottom 4.
My mindset is I don't really care what the regular season record is. Just get a healthy team and
yeah. You and I are actually tied, technically. No.
I'm 3-2, I think.
Oh, I'm 2-3. Just kidding.
So, but I have the most points. I put up the most points in our league thus far.
Really? Or I just called you Elijah. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Ian points for 669.12. Nice.
Yeah.
I have 597. 595.
But the teams that I've played against have also put up
550. Oh, that's not you. 569.
So that whole point differential, it'll kill you.
You have a 92% chance to make the playoffs.
So we'll see. I'm trying to pick up another running back. I tried to make a trade yesterday with the commish.
Did he decline?
Yeah, he declined it, and that's okay.
Are you hurt when people decline? I need to know this.
So, no. My thing that drives me nuts is when you put a trade out there and you just decline it. Throw me a counter, you know? I mean, and it doesn't have to do that. And it doesn't have to be like the exact player that I'm looking for. You know, if you have a running back, or, you know, maybe I got something that you need. That's just throw something back at me. Let's have a discussion. It's fun. Like, that's one of my favorite things. I had a good trade a few years ago. Cooper Kupp was having his MVP season. And everyone was trying to get Cooper Kupp from Larry, who was he's still with us. Larry White. He's one of our
He's no longer
TMPs.
in the.
Yeah, he retired.
He retired from the draft or from the fantasy league.
Somehow, I had. Who did I have? I had the Washington quarterback. I forget who it was. Somehow I turned that into Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy G.
And then somehow I turned Jimmy Garoppolo into Patrick Mahomes.
No.
I don't know
how. Who gave you Patrick Mahomes?
I think it was Cameron.
Willingly.
Someone who no longer works here. But I somehow got Patrick Mahomes. He was playing, like, I got him when he was down. Like, I mean, if you look at it, Patrick Mahomes is not a great fantasy football quarterback at all. And then somehow, and the fun thing with the work league is you see everyone. So, like, if you send them a trade, like, you can go to their desks and stuff and kind of bug them. So I remember going to Larry. I'm like, all right, Larry, what do I have to do to get Cooper Kupp? And he's like, I want Patrick Mahomes. And I thought about it, I said, screw it. Let's do it. So I somehow got Cooper Kupp. And at the time, I think I was like, I don't know, 3-5. I think I finished with 7 wins going into the playoffs. Yeah, I went on nice. Then I got matched up in the playoffs, and that's when this was the COVID season.
Oh, okay.
And so right when, if you got tested for COVID, you were out, and then you had to keep testing, and hopefully you can
come back.
And so this was the 1 week the season had gone pretty well. Not too many people got COVID. And then right in the first round of our playoffs, there was a huge COVID outbreak. And, of course, Cooper Kupp gets COVID.
Oh, no.
And so I lost him for the first week of the playoffs, and I think I lost to Brian by, like, 5 points. Oh, it sucked. It sucked bad.
Brian, you're talking about, like, because we all see each other, we get to, like, bug each other. Brian's one of those people who will walk by my desk. And fantasy football or not, Brian will always say hello to me, ask me how I'm doing. We're like, we are conversational, so it's not like he only bugs me during football season. But he'll come to my desk, and I know when he's about to ask, hey, Allyson, so what you want for Jefferson? No, I'm nothing. What do you want for Stephon Diggs? Nothing.
Yeah.
I will not trade. My problem is, and this is a problem that I know I have in the last couple seasons. I get emotionally attached to players I've never seen. Yeah. I don't know them personally, but they're on my team. They take me through some of the dark days when I'm losing, and they take me through the good days when I'm winning, and I have a hard time getting rid of them. And so when I drafted, we know this because I think I mentioned it on.
I think you were at a wedding, weren't you?
I was at a wedding, so
half of your roster is out.
Yes. So on my bench currently, we have Jordan Addison, of course, on a bye week. We have Justin Jefferson, also on a bye week. We have Johnny Munt, also tight end from Minnesota, also on a bye week. And then we have Moody, my kicker, who I could drop and then just pick up, and I did pick up a different kicker, but I'd rather put him on my bench because I have taken Moody. I don't know how this works. I've taken Moody for the last 3 seasons in almost every.
Is the 49ers kicker?
Yeah, in almost every league that I've been in.
Yeah.
And he puts up good points. I think he's like top 3 right now in fantasy for kickers specifically. So rather than drop him and then or then accidentally someone else picks him up, I kept him on my bench and I was like, oh, that's just taking a spot.
That's what you gotta do.
And then in my IR, I've got Edwards, Hilaire, and Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
That is.
And aren't you like trying to play Nick Chubb, who's still out?
You really called me out on that. I am, because I was really hopeful. I was like moving players around. I am trying to play Nick Chubb, but.
I think you're playing several players that are out.
No. I changed it today. Okay. So the only player that's out is Chubb, and then I have Donta Foreman. Dante. There's no. Oh, okay. I guess. Yeah. The Browns. There you go. He's questionable. He's not out. He's just questionable.
Yeah, I mean, this time of the season.
And you know what?
Everyone's questionable.
Kittle has been questionable for the last like 3 weeks, and he's putting up good points for me. So I ain't it's either D or O. And I'm like, okay, I'll take him off. But I know you laugh at me. I put Nick Chubb up there. I have no one else to put in my flex spot. The only player who could put up points for me on my bench right now is Daniel Jones. And he's probably not even putting up points anyways.
Well, you could go to the waiver wire, look at the players, and you could drop players that are on a bye. And, Do
you want Dante Foreman? I'll give it to him. You don't have an emotional attachment to him? He plays for your Browns.
But he's not. I don't think he's a starter, is he? How much was he projected?
4.4 points.
Yeah, I'm good. I think I picked up the Green Bay backup. I think he's projected like 6 or 7 points. I mean, it gets tough when you don't. That's the thing with the running backs. You just never know.
Oh, I was saying we have 16 teams for us, so it's like hard to pick up anybody.
Yeah, and I mean it's tough when you got a deep bench, because if you're looking for like a backup quarterback, or if you're looking for, I mean, wide receivers, they're pretty deep. Running backs, we are not deep. You definitely have to trade to survive.
Yes.
But there's been no trades at all this season. And
I will make a trade with you if you look at my roster.
I don't really want any of your players.
You don't want Nick Chubb for when he comes back next week?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know when he's coming back. At this point, the Browns look so bad. I would just keep Nick Chubb out for a whole season. Let him rest up. Bring him back next year.
This is fantasy, ESPN fantasy, so take it with a grain of salt. He was estimated to return this weekend on the 13th. Wow. And now he's just listed as out. So I kept him, and this is the idea. I was looking at these players, and after I came to and realized that the draft was going on and half my team was already picked for me, and I picked some players that I thought, okay, well, they're going to be out for a couple games, but they'll get me on the back end.
I've done that mindset before, like, oh, well, I'll take a few, take a few losses. Mm-hmm. I'm never really a bye week person. I don't really care about the bye weeks, at least in our league, because I can afford, a few losses as long as you're healthy once the playoffs start.
Oh, see.
Where everyone else is like, the bye week, I got to work around that. Who cares?
Take
the bye week as yourself.
It's not like, I guess I don't work around the bye week, but I look at my roster and think, hey, well, I should pick an even amount of players for each bye week, or be mindful of it. If it's players that I can drop, or the defense, so kickers and defense that I don't mind dropping, even in the flex position, I can think of it. Yeah. But then I always think like that. And then after week 2, I have so many injuries that I'm like, I should have just thrown that out the window, because now I don't have enough players, and it's too late to pick up anybody, because you have to make a trade. But how am I going to convince somebody to trade me a player when you see what my bench looks like. Everyone just heard what my bench looks like.
After this episode, we'll go. I'll show you how to make a trade. We'll figure it out. Now,
I know how to make one.
The hard part is once the trade has been made, even if you decide to make if we agree, then the rest of the league has to decide whether or not, was that a fair trade? So they could veto the trade.
I have never voted on a trade. Do I have to?
Well, it's funny because like sometimes like people will start it's like politics. Like people will start going around like veto the trade, veto the trade, veto the trade. I'm like, you're not even
somebody
involved
did say
in
that
this.
to me last week or last year. I think it was one of your trades. I didn't veto it, but somebody told me to veto your trade.
Who was it?
I don't remember, but I do specifically remember because
who it was.
It was around. I'll literally check my DMs, but it was around the time that our meteorologist Maddie Bullock, I think he lost. He said, if I lose to Allyson this week, I'm dropping all my players, and he held to it, and he dropped every single one of his players. And our commissioner Andrew Dockery had to kick him out of the league.
And now he's back, and he's 5-0.
He came back strong. That was a strategy.
Look at that. Yep, everyone was laughing at him on draft night, and now all of a sudden he's undefeated. And no, I mean, I feel like as long as it's not like you're like holding a gun to someone's head, like make this trade with me. You know, it's like
they're making that decision.
If they make the decision, they should make the decision. And the hard part is you get people that aren't having good seasons that are like, I wanted this player. Well, you should have come up with a trade. You know, so then they try to gain up on you. They try to it's almost like watching Survivor. We gotta blindside this person. There's one time where the trade was supposed to go down with like 3 minutes left because the trade is up for like 12 or 24 hours, and then it goes through. And there was one trade that Matt and I put through that I felt was fair, and I don't know what happened because we had enough, and all of a sudden, poof, it didn't go through.
Oh, because somebody vetoed it?
I don't know.
As long as you've been here, has Andrew Dockery been the commissioner?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I need to pick his brain because I was talking to you before the start. We're doing a fantasy hockey draft.
Yeah.
Hockey. My Canadian's coming out so hard and I'm trying to hide it. I need some tips on being a commissioner. So I'll ask him after this pod. But there is no strategy for me. That is where I'm coming with this.
Survive.
There is, when I go to draft players, I will draft players that I know by name. And that is it. And then once I start I'll add a bunch to my queue just in case I'm a little late to the game. And I think for the last couple of years, I haven't had a great draft position.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to complain.
Your draft.
What?
I would probably reconsider the way you draft.
I understand that.
Did you say just go after names that you know?
Yes.
Well, you didn't even know your running back's name.
No, but
you went with it.
No. That wasn't one I picked.
Oh.
That was one that was picked for me.
Ah.
And so I think I might have picked up Dante afterwards as like somebody was out and I just dropped him.
Makes sense.
But my point is that, like you said, it's really mostly luck. So if I just pick big names that I know have performed well in the past, like Kittle, if he's available, I always take him. He has always performed well for me. I have no complaints about that. I knew McCaffrey wasn't going to be available. So when I'm starting to put things in my queue and I'm picked 7th in the draft, I'm not taking anybody top 10 because I know they're not going to be available for me if I'm putting queue and I'm like going away.
Yeah.
So it's like realistically, I have to consider like where I am in the draft and who I add by names that I know. And then after that, and I'm like, okay, I'm out of names that I know, but I need more players. I'll start like aggressively Googling or like looking at things like, okay, well, he's not like the backup to the backup. This could work. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. But then most of the times it just gets down to the panic at the very end. I have like 2 picks left and I don't draft in like the order everyone else drafts in where they're like, oh, you saved the quarterback for like 5th and then you drafted defense and a kicker last.
With your heart.
Whatever. I just go with my heart. I'm like, oh, you know what? This guy's still available. I'm going to pick him. Yeah. That is my theme. That is the way I do things. I will say it is no worse than my husband playing his first fantasy league. And the first player he drafted was the Green Bay defense.
This year?
No. His first year was last year.
Oof.
And people were like, Elijah, what are you doing? And then for his second pick, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
I mean, at least
he redeemed himself.
Well, but I mean, again, people argue that you don't take a QB too high because
You take that QB whenever you want. Defense, stupid.
yeah, that one was really funny. He just like his thought process was like, oh, defense, it's a whole team.
Sometimes.
Sometimes you get -1 point.
So you're what, 2-3?
I'm 2-3. I'm on
3-2.
a 2-win streak, which in my other league I was on a 2-win streak and I went on to lose 3. So I'm even on both leagues.
All right.
But
I mean, look at that. You got someone who I felt fairly confident in my team the last time we talked, thinking that I would probably be 5-0, and now I'm sitting here at 3-2. You were not confident in your team, and look at you. You're 2-3. So that right there is fantasy football in a nutshell, and the season continues.
I think Tegan said that she was gonna make a loss, or she was gonna at least or take a win, 1 win, because we talked about suggestions.
She's basically the bye week.
Oh, she's actually 0-5.
Yeah, she's basically the bye week of our league. She's not even paying attention.
Yep.
I played her this past week.
Oh yeah, didn't she put up like 69 points?
Something like that, and she had half of her team that wasn't even playing. So
Yes.
if you played Tegan, consider
If
it a
I
bye
lose
week.
against Tegan, I quit.
That's a good place to be right now.
I'm trying to look for your thing. Oh yeah, she put up 61 points.
Yeah.
For your 130. That's a waste. That's what I think. When you put up so many points, I was like, damn, can I carry some of these over?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins had his crazy game where he put up like 45 points. I'm like, what a waste of 45 points. But you know what? I'll take it.
I don't want to talk about
the points also do make a difference when it comes to
at the end, tiebreakers and stuff.
So.
But I don't want to talk about Kirk Cousins because in my other league, I have Kirk Cousins and I have Matt Stafford.
And you put him on your bench?
Because the week before, Kirk Cousins did me dirty.
Well, not like Matt Stafford did any better.
No, he didn't. I'm so mad. I mean, I would have lost anyways in that game because I think I got 98 points and they got 137. So it wouldn't have been the game changer for me. But now I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you could pick your dream fantasy team, there's no limitations to who you pick. There's nobody out. We're talking like they never get injured. Like this is the perfect team. And we're doing 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, a defense, and a kicker. This is just the way that our league is currently.
Yeah.
Who are you taking? You can start with your QB.
This could be a fun segment that we could do throughout the season, too.
All right.
Let's just sit here and, quarterback-wise, let's just do the quarterback this week.
All right, well, I'll tell you who my quarterback is.
So who's the quarterback you would be taking?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow. I think that is a good upper level mid fantasy player. Yeah, sure, his team's not winning very well, but he's putting points up for me. And I've looked at his stats. I think he's only had 1 single digit game points per game for me. Other than that, he's been booming, not busting.
Yeah, and I think when you look at quarterbacks, I mean, obviously if they're a running quarterback, they get more points because you're getting 0.1 for rushing yards versus 0.04 for passing. So, I mean, I'm looking back now. I wish I would have taken Jaden Daniels with Washington. He was on my board of quarterbacks that I was looking to take. Robert snagged him before I could take him. Yeah. But he's been good. He's been fairly well, and Washington looks good too. So.
All right, well, that's this week's then. I took Burrow. And you know what? Had I not taken him by accident this year, and I had somebody else, I probably would have looked on an envy of whoever, which would have been Emily Sheroff because she said she wanted him. Yeah. But that's because who did I originally want? I didn't want Lamar Jackson because I knew I didn't want to attach myself to it because I knew he was going to leave. Yeah. I didn't want to take anybody else that was, again, high up there. I'm trying to think of who I really wanted. Not Brock Purdy. Usually, historically speaking, I've always just wanted to take
Aaron Rodgers.
No, I didn't want Aaron Rodgers. Oh my gosh, who did I want? Well, it's not important now because I took Joe Burrow out of a fear of missing my draft and having auto draft, and I have 0 regrets about it.
Yeah. So, well, this will be nice because as we do this throughout the season, then we can look at how many points they actually put up and see if that actually ends up being our dream team. So, yeah, you take Joe Burrow. I'll take Jaden Daniels, and I'm guessing, Tegan would have taken.
Oh, Josh Allen.
Yeah. So.
Josh Allen. I should have screamed that in here. That's who I wanted. But
Well, we're going to give it to Tegan. So.
Yes, Tegan. I mean, I don't want, I meant when I was drafting. Now I'm still firm on Joe Burrow. We will give Tegan, she's not here, but like we've talked about many times before.
Yeah.
She
We
wanted.
got Joe. She's got Josh.
And you got Jaden.
Yep.
J names.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, we'll when we come back next week, we'll have hopefully Tegan. I honestly don't even know her schedule anymore because she's so busy. But I believe it's homecoming, so she should be here, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good.